Can take from this section of the program. Well, talking about going spiritual, I reserve my comments. All right, interesting things happening today in Nigeria, and the papers have captured it. But it's to begin by saying today is the International Day of Education.
Education.
Yes. And the theme for this year, this is the 6th edition actually, of the UNESCO initiative, International Day of Education.
6th edition.
Yes, this is the 6th edition, and the 2024 theme is Learning for Lasting Peace. And so today all over the world we are paying tribute to education, we are paying tribute to educators, and we are also calling attention to the issues that we face in education, especially reminding stakeholders, parents, schools, government, and every other stakeholder in between, teachers, every other stakeholder in between, of what we must do to ensure that our children get the best of education, that our children get the quality of education they need to survive, not in the world of today, but for the world of tomorrow. We are the ones running the world today. So the kind of education our children need is not only education that is functional for today, but an education that prepares them for the challenges, the society, the difficulties of tomorrow. So it's a very interesting one. Now I'm going to just speak briefly on the theme for 2024, and that is Learning for Lasting Peace. I think this theme was tailor-made for Nigeria.
Okay.
Globally, there is violent conflicts across the world. Globally, there are issues of insecurity. Globally, there are issues of racism, discrimination, gender issues. We have issues of xenophobia. We can go on and talk about all of these things. Religion and politics, all of these things divide us. This is the era of course, social media. This is the era of hate speech. This is the era of fake news or fake information, whatever want to call it. And so when you look at the theme, Learning for Lasting Peace, it is what kind of education do we deploy out there? What kind of education do we provide for this society, our children? What must teachers be doing? What must schools be doing? What must government be doing? What kind of education do we need to change the narrative, deal with all of the problem of violent conflicts? When you look at violent conflicts by their nature, how they begin, how they end, then you see education is missing. If only we had education that could be as simple as knowing who we are. Because if I don't know who I am, when you say, for instance, communal clashes in Nigeria, which is a serious problem in Nigeria, if we don't know who we are, then we can't appreciate what unites us with our neighbors. So that kind of education that will make communities understand that it makes no sense for us to fight. This is where we are coming from. This is who we've been. This is what this is what we can do together. This is how we need each other. That kind of education, it's lacking in anywhere you see all of these conflicts. You come to places where there is racism, whether it's in America, whether it's anywhere else. When you find the problem of racism, then you see it is the current generation that continues this racism not really understanding their history. So if you have a problem with this person, how did this person get here? In America, for instance, how did the blacks come into America? Did they get missing in Africa and then found themselves by mistake on a ship and then transport themselves here and then start causing trouble? No. A deep appreciation of your history, the trauma these people have been through, would change the narrative. And so if you come to Nigeria, a deep understanding of who we are as Ndibo, of who these guys are as Hausa people, of who these guys are as Ndofem Man or Yoruba people, of who these guys are as Gwari people, we won't be at each other's neck. If we understand the role our founding fathers played, the struggles they made, the sacrifices they made, and most importantly, the mistakes they made, we wouldn't be here in 2024. The Biafrans, the resurgence of a version of Biafra, I don't know what to call it, but this agitation in the Southeast would not be if we had deployed education properly. If you also look at how we run our society today, it's almost we are pitching men against women. And so in the conversation, you say men, and then in the conversation, yeah, women. then, education will help, level all of these mountains. And so education, learning for lasting peace, does not only call attention to the fact that, like today, there is this hashtag, start the story. Start the story tells us that we should begin with our children. And so from telling them stories and, growing up, stories did a lot for especially our generation and the generation before us. It's missing today. And so from stories, when we talk about our moral values, that is off the window, we don't even know what is happening anymore. It's because we've lost this. Tell these children stories. It could be as little as picture stories before they are age 5. It could be as little as reading to them, asking them questions. Bring back this culture from the family, escalate it into the society. There was a UNESCO report, very interesting. There was a UNESCO report that said only 2% of children below the age of 5 in sub-Saharan Africa have up to 3 books. 2%. So if you see a child in Nigeria who has up to 3 books, we're not even talking about school books. We're just saying, because books go beyond your curriculum books. Just having 3 books, these are my books, before they are age 5, only 2%, then it's really a crisis. Look at what the UNESCO, the recommendation of UNESCO for countries, member nations, to budget for education. Then you look at, they are talking about 6% of your GDP, or 15 to 20% of your budget. Nigeria has been struggling with that forever. President Muhammadu Buhari in 2022 budgeted 5.4% to education. There was an outcry, blah, 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 blah. In 2023, it was up to 8.2%, which is a far cry. But then we look at in 2024, Tinubu, who promised, came to power on the promise of reviving education, he budgeted just a paltry 6.3% to education. We look at the UNESCO report of 2023, 20.1 or 20 points, and million Nigerian children are out of school. We look at the illiteracy level in Nigeria, it's as high as 30-something. We can go on and on talking about all of these statistics, but then the truth remains, we need to do a lot for education. One other sad part about our education is also our curriculum. So what are we teaching our children in school? Why should my child in school be learning French when he has not learned Hausa and Yoruba? Education prepares you to conquer your environment. Why should my child in primary school today be learning that Lord Lugard discovered Nigeria? Why should we be teaching our children that nonsense that is not true? Why should we be teaching our children that this is a cash crop and this is what's it called now? A cash crop and
the one that baffles me the most is why should the children be learning how to draw cockroaches
and label insects?
Why you're meant to be teaching them how to use modern technologies, how to when you go outside the country, you just see young people developing things, becoming scientists, doing a lot of things. But in Nigeria here, we'll see our teachers teaching our children how to draw cockroaches, how to label insects, what is inside the rats, and like those things that cannot
functional.
Once they're out of school, it's just as if that everything they learned just stops there at that school gate.
Yeah.
Because it is of no use in this present.
It's not functional.
It is not functional because it's just like when I was in school, people were kind of talking about board mass and all those things.
Yeah.
We're talking about board mass, and this present situation now in Nigeria. What am I doing with that kind of thing now? How is it improving in my life? How is it putting money in my pocket?
Board mass is important, though.
hold on. I know where I'm going to. No, those things that were not really necessary.
A lot of them.
Skeleton, you keep drawing skeleton, labeling. Okay, that one could be important because of medical students.
Those were the medical
but there are things that are not even meant to be like this. I think the curriculum, like you said, should be changed.
It should be overhauled.
Because a lot of things needs to be changed in that thing.
Now, let me give you an example. I was in the university, and I admit this. I was in university, social sciences, studying pub admin. I did government in secondary school. Now, I have to say this because of my discipline. And we were in our third year. We were having it was a lecture and we we shared a different opinion with the lecturer. He was one of those lecturers who believed beyond just teaching that it should be interactive, and so he would come up with the idea and you would critique it. And we disagreed with him on something. I can't remember what it is. I don't want to waste time trying to remember it. He went to the board. Todie. He went to the board and he drew the map of Nigeria. And he said somebody should come and draw the rail lines. Somebody should come to the board and draw the rail lines in the country. And this is the map. You know, like you can say, okay, you wrap by states, the rail lines. Nobody could. Todie, public admin. A prerequisite for you to study pub admin in secondary school is that you studied government. Nobody knew where the rail lines in Nigeria. Nobody could put it on the map. He told us as an assignment that the next time he comes to this class and there is somebody who can draw it, that he will give the person a present. You didn't, that kind of a challenge, take home assignment, woo, we jump to it. I personally jumped to it. And so I thought I had a secret to which I would beat him the next time he came to class. I went to geography department. Geography. You're talking about the map of Nigeria. You're talking about the geography of Nigeria. So I went to the geography department. And I met my friends. Then I was the speaker of the house of the faculty. So first of all, I called my members who were in the faculty house. None of them knew. And then one of them, Honorable Chukwunonye, told me, he said, well, I should meet those in final year. That in final year, there is a course called Geography of Nigeria. In final year geography, it is not like in final year geography. I'm talking about University of Nigeria and Nsukka. So if anybody says he learnt it in school, I don't know which school he learnt it. He said that in final year geography, that there is a course, not what you are studying, just a course. You know, Geo 40, this thing, you know, you have different courses.
Yes.
That one is called Geography of Nigeria. So I went to a final year geography and he could not write that. I was flabbergasted. We came to learn and he remembered. None of us could bring it up because none of us got the answer. Those of us, I mean, if anyone tried, nobody got the answer. And then he asked that and the class was quiet and he came to the board. And he simply drew 2 lines. Map of Nigeria. He drew 2 lines. I said, this is it. And he asked us a question. He said, do you know why none of you know? He said there is a deliberate attempt, scripted attempt, plotted attempt to ensure that you don't know this. Because if you know this, for you to know this, you will know the implication of this. And if you know the implication of this, we are going to be a generation that want to change it. I'm talking about curriculum now. Learning for lasting peace. One of the problems why we have education in Nigeria, we've been educated, but yet we can't live together, is this. And so he said, rail lines all over the world, including those who came to colonize you, the British who gave you this rail, that rail line crisscrosses the country and unites the country. And that is why whatever airport you get into, you can always get to the closest rail line, and it crisscrosses the country, it unites the country. That is what a rail line is. But he said the rail lines were built for just one purpose. It starts from the place where you have a natural resource down to the sea where the British is taking your resources out of your country. He said that the man who did this is keeping it away from you, so it's not in your curriculum. Do you know it was an eye-opener? And so he now, that was when he now told us. He said, so please, any of you who wants to argue this thing with me should go back and learn your country. And that is why, you want me to teach you in a certain kind of way. You learn nothing out of it. That was the only course that the lecturer, all through my university, did not follow the course outline. He said, if you want to read that, go and read that. But you will fail my exams if you read that and don't read what I'm teaching you. So that was where the argument started from. This is not in our course outline. He said, what's that course outline? That you don't need this. And so I'm telling you that as somebody who read, as somebody who read the social sciences in a Nigerian foremost university, that I graduated from the university, and there was no course that mandated me to read about revolutionaries an African mind. None. I did not need to read a book about Wole Soyinka or Aminu Kano or Nnamdi Azikiwe or Sardauna of Sokoto, Ahmadu Bello or Awolowo or Gowon. It was just summaries. Gowon did this in 1940.
This is nonsense. This is the reason why most persons, once they finish school, they will tell you that school is a scam.
Education is a scam.
They will tell you that
because you can't apply it.
Because it's just
because
as
you can't apply it.
It's just as if once you are in school, you are doing something different, but once you are out of school, you're seeing another thing totally different.
True.
Like it is a totally different world out there.
Completely.
That is why you know when I was in school, my dad always says, when you graduate, you go into the world. I never understood that statement until I understood that yes, once you graduate, you will still need something that will back you up. Because schools now in Nigeria is that they don't teach you what you need to know outside.
That's
they teach you they just teach you.
No, that is curriculum.
Just what they want to for you to just write exam and pass.
You know, education came to us during the Industrial Revolution. And so at that point when education came to us from the British, this is me trying to absolve the British of the nonsense going on right now, because it's enough for a father to call the family and then tell them our neighbors want to eliminate us. It's one thing, be vigilant, our neighbors want to eliminate us. It is another thing for the father himself to be leading the family in a way and be carrying on in a way that puts the family at risk. So these are two different things. So the British have done what they did, and it is in their interest that they do it, and that is human. It's human that your interest first, right? And so education came to us at a time when children were being prepared to work in industries. So there were factories, there were industries, blah, 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 and there was that. And so we got that. The problem is successive leaders have failed to now look at what is the manpower needs of Nigeria, what is the needs for tomorrow, what issues do we want to solve in our society, what do they need to learn, and then script a curriculum that prepares Nigerian children for that. I was watching a podcast, Lux Nlanda complained about the educational system in South Africa, and he complained about this, what we just talked about, teaching children how to label insects, but he said something fundamental. And he said, look at the pillars of our economy is mining and agriculture. It is in agriculture that feeds other individuals like manufacturing, and all of that. But then we are teaching our children nonsense that here they are, a German kid is being taught in secondary school. The course is mining.
Exactly.
And that child is growing up in a country that has no natural resource underneath. So they are preparing their children to come run the economy. And we are not preparing our children for that.
You prepare your children how to draw cockroaches.
Today, the Nigerian curriculum, we must take advantage of this and begin to revisit the Nigerian curriculum. I don't understand why I graduated from the university and there was no book. There was no book in my curriculum that made it mandatory that I learn about Malcolm X, that I learn about Martin Luther King. People might say, what you know is nonsense. I mean, that mandates you to know in depth, like to read a full book on these people. You should not study social sciences in Nigeria without knowing all of these people. And that is why we have people who are graduates, but they are out there spilling nonsense, whether they are in the media or they are in politics or they are the clergy or whatever. Why? Just like I said, why should our children be learning French over Hausa and Igbo? Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba. Why should a Nigerian child learn French before they learn Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba? Why should a Nigerian kid be in Nigeria and he doesn't know the truth about the Biafran War? Why should an Igbo child be learning about the Biafran War in a way that tells him that the Igbo were innocent and the Hausas are to blame? Why should a Hausa kid be learning a Nigerian history that teaches him that the Hausas had no blame, that the Igbos were to blame? In fact, why should we be teaching the Biafran War today in Nigeria? Why should we be talking about the Biafran War in tribes? We should be teaching the Biafran War in the sense of, hey, a generation made a mistake. This is where it should be. This generation made a mistake. This generation should have approached this problem this way and that way and that way. These are their mistakes. And spread that mistake across board. if it's about what our brothers did in 1967, hey, they shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have done this. This was a mistake they made. If it was about what Agoy Idrissa did, we put the blame on him. If it is about what those who called it the revenge coup, which was clearly which was a genocide, we'd say no, these guys made a mistake. They shouldn't have done this. This is not what brothers do, right? If we are not teaching our children this, and so you find in 2024, across board, you find people who say they've gotten education in the north, educated minds, people who should have been sound minds. When they talk about people of Igbo extraction, you're like, what bitterness, what ignorance, right? You also come down to the east. You find people from the east, bright minds, sound minds, educated people, well-traveled people. And when they tell you about the north, you see what ignorance. And we're in the same country. But then tell that person to tell you about the history of France.
The problem we have in Nigeria is that we don't do practicals. We do mostly on theory. We don't really do
especially
practicals.
in the sciences,
Yes, you will see a school, they will just be teaching you just theory. But the thing is that most outside the country,
even the theories they teach are weak.
Exactly. Outside the country, they do more of practicals. Because you cannot tell me someone that studied civil engineering and the person is out and the person is still learning. The person is still learning how to do some things. It's just like a friend of mine that did civil engineering. He now said that he went to a field and he wanted to practice what he was taught in school. They told him this is not how they do it. That is school for you. You have to learn it again. So that means after learning in school, when you're outside, you have to start all over again. To start with what, it's just as if you're learning another thing all together, because this pattern of going to school, learning how to draw cockroaches and teaching us how to label insects and all those things are not necessary. We are not using them now. Those things are not putting money inside our pockets.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story, and this is how I end. Okay. I'll tell you a story. I've never told you a story. It's a personal family story. The first son of my family, Alexander Geoman, excellent guy, excellent mind. He graduated from, finished his. He was one of those who had the presidential handshake with Sani Abacha. His results in secondary school. He was that bright. He graduated from University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Flying colors is belittling what he came out with. Something happened when he finished serving in Lagos. Okay, sorry, forget about that part. When he finished serving in Lagos, and then he put up for the normal thing everybody does, right? It was Iteko that he was called for, what's it called, interview, right? Now, he did so well in the written part that the white guys took note of him. But here he was for sort of like the practical, and he said he was lost. So, like, when somebody had taken note of you, and so it was 5 minutes into it, and then the white man came to meet him and told him, you should, he said yes. He said next time the man came, he said he did not know where he found the courage, and he told the man, he said, I have never seen this. He said, but you wrote? He said, yes, but I have never seen it. He said they told him they were going to give him a waiver they had never given anyone. That they were going to give him, they were going to give him this employment, but he was going to sign an undertaking of 3 months. That if 3 months he does not, it was, that they were at liberty to take him up. He agreed. To cut the long story short, within a year he was the regional manager in the north. He was taken from Lagos, he was brought to the north, he was the regional manager. He was the regional manager of Iteko before he left Nigeria, So the point I'm trying to make is, we have an education we need to revive. We need to revisit our curriculum and make our curriculum functional. I think that's a good place to rest this and say today is Ode to education in the world, and of course in Nigeria we need to have a serious rethink. All right, insecurity, security. security, IPMAN, NMPCL. Which one tickles your fancy?